joining us for the next 15, 20 minutes. Talk Eagles football is a guy you catch nightly. He looks just as good with us as he does on 680. Damn, maybe their makeup people aren't as good. He looks dynamite. He's got the good black going on, fitting right in on the show. We got to get him a hat, but that's okay. Jeff Skversky from 6ABC hops on board with us here on Birds 365. How are you this morning, Jeff?
What's up, guys? You know, working at home, I have like landscapers outside, weed whackers going, the lawn. I'm like, I don't know if you can hear any of this nonsense going on, but this is the new way of the world, right? Working from home, landscapers.
Yeah, we all go through the same thing, Jeff. I got my dog barking. I got mute. We're all going through the same thing. The landscapers, all that kind of stuff.
I remember last year at this time when the pandemic first hit, and we're all of a sudden working at home. So I'm doing an interview with Larry Bowa. Am I allowed to talk Phillies on here?
Yeah.
I'm doing an interview with Larry Bowa, and there is just massive construction going on outside. I'm trying to get, my wife is trying to ask them to, like, can they come back in like 5 minutes? I couldn't hear Larry talk. And I'm like, what? I'm like, you know, I always wanted to work in Philadelphia, dreamed of working at Channel 6, being a sportscaster in Philadelphia. And I'm like, this is not how I really pictured all of this going down.
All right, let me start there.
Yeah.
Will you be at the stadium every single week? Do you expect to be able to do an interview with a player this upcoming season and look him in the eye rather than look into your computer and get his Zoom take on how the game just went?
You know, that's a great question. I really don't know what, you know, could I predict, hey, maybe we'll be back in studio in a couple months? Sure, maybe I could predict that. But I really don't know when we'll be back in front of these players again. And, you know, my gut tells me, and I could be wrong, my gut tells me we'll go through another season of this where no in-person interviews. But, you know, the fall it feels only 4 months away. It's a long time. It's a short time. I really don't know. My gut would say probably another season of this.
Yeah, I agree, Jeff. They're already. I mean, the city, obviously, everybody's planning for full stadiums in the NFL around the country. I think we're going to see that. But I agree with you. I think we're in Zoom world for at least another season. It's interesting because I want to ask you from that ABC perspective. What do they tell you guys about going back in the studio? Any headway as far as that goes?
Well, look, we're just being cautious like everyone else, and we're just trying to be smart about it. And that's the way to go here, right? You want to be smart. You want to make sure everyone's protected. Sorry, it's very early for me. I don't normally get out of bed till noon. So, but you want to make sure everyone's protected. So, you know, our photographers, our reporters, you know, they're not back in the building. And it's just kind of a skeleton crew. And thank goodness for all this technology, right? Because we're able to do this. We're able to do shows. And when this first hit, we're able to do interviews over FaceTime and Zoom. And remember Zach Ertz last March, he agreed to do an interview with me about some charity he was working on. And he goes, hey, do you have Zoom? I'm like, well, what are you talking about? What?
Yeah.
And I wish back then I bought some Zoom stock because that has gone through the roof. But look, I mean, they just want to keep everyone safe. And it's just the reason why the Phillies beat writers aren't really traveling. Most of the Eagles beat writers did not travel last year. I don't know what the case will be this upcoming season. But, you know, right now it's just about keeping everyone safe. And there's nothing wrong with being overly cautious here.
Let me ask you a follow-up on that. Can't get a read because you're just not there situation. Eagles have a new head coach, and we've been able to see him via the miracle of Zoom and be able to get a judgment on the way he handles himself in a computer-driven situation. You haven't had the chance to stand there next to him and get a vibe from him and look him in the eyes. All of us have been here in town for a while. Andy Reid, sweaty as he may be, had a commanding attitude to himself. Chip Kelly always looked like somebody was looking over his shoulder. When he first took over, Doug Peterson looked like he was learning on the job. But after he won the Super Bowl, he looked like a guy who was confident in everything he was doing. We got no idea what Nick Sirianni is. We can judge by his words and his attitude and the like, but it's just not the same as being able to see the guy up close and personal What is your Zoom take on Nick Sirianni been so far, Jeff?
Well, I actually have met Nick Sirianni. So the day of the draft, I was down there doing live shots for Channel 6, and he was in the parking lot, and I was introduced to him. So from a distance, we spoke for, 5-10 minutes, and he seems like a nice guy. He seems like he's very similar to me as Doug Peterson. Doug is a good guy, a nice guy. Did Doug have the stature like Andy Reid did? Maybe not. But the other thing I will say is, did Andy Reid have that stature and that, presence from day one, or did that evolve over time? And, look, Nick Sirianni is a young guy, and he's, maybe one of the youngest coaches in the NFL. So he's a young guy. It's going to take time for him to also develop that confidence. I mean, he's a first-time head coach. Yes, he believes he can do it, but you have to remember he hasn't done it. So to him, he's learning on the job, getting to know us, getting to know his players, getting to know Howie Roseman and Jeffrey Lurie. So I think you have to give it time and let it develop. But look, to sit here and judge his press conferences over Zoom is so difficult and so, in my opinion, unfair, because it doesn't really matter at the end of the day what he says, in my opinion. I mean, people used to judge Andy Reid on his press conferences, and I'm going, it's ridiculous. It doesn't matter. He could have the worst press conferences ever and win and go 16-0. That's all that matters. Look at Bill Belichick. It's the worst press conferences ever, but it's okay because the guy is a winner. So does it really matter the way he comes across on Zoom? I know that's our initial take and the only thing we can judge it on, but it's so unfair. And oh, by the way, his first press conference, he's essentially getting grilled on the Carson Wentz situation, the Jalen Hurts, which is an unfair situation to be thrown into. That's just the reality, in my opinion, of the situation. Trying to judge somebody on that, it's just so difficult.
Yeah, it is. And he didn't have that information. That's a good point, Jeff. So he's getting
grilled. If he has, and John, but if he did, to reveal it to us, to reveal it to the fan base, why would you do it? It's a game of poker. At the end of the day, they're trying to create value. Just like right now, they're trying to create value for Zach Ertz. To let it all out, to what we want would just not be smart for them. They're running a business.
Yeah. I do want to talk to you about the youth theme. You brought up Nick's obviously very young, his coaching staff as a whole. Nick Rallis is the youngest position coach in the league. Michael Clay is the youngest coordinator in the league. It seems like something the Eagles wanted to bring into the NovaCare complex was this youth and this energy. Jeff, you've been around for a long time. You've talked to guys like Jason Kelce and Fletcher Cox and Brandon Graham time and time again. How do you think that plays with the veteran players on this team?
I think they want to win. And I know you go back to Chip Kelly, and it took time. Players had a really hard time buying into Chip Kelly. And then they start to buy in. They clinch the division that first year. They're in Dallas. And I remember LaShawn McCoy running around on the field celebrating. And they finally bought in. And then, of course, it snowballs just fast. Guys just want to win. And, for Jason Kelce, this may be it here. They draft Dickerson. This could be it for Kelce. He's toyed with the idea of retiring. You look at Fletcher Cox. How many more years does he have? Brandon Graham's an easy guy to buy in. I mean, he's think about Brandon Graham's situation. I mean, he was almost gone. How many years ago? We were all talking to him. I remember in training camp one year, and he was like, I don't know if I'm going to be here anymore.
Yeah, it was Travis Long. He thought he was going to get cut for Travis Long.
Yeah, and thank goodness that didn't happen. Yeah. And Brandon's one of the best human beings in the world. But I think these guys want to win. And look, I think everyone was hoping that the Doug Peterson thing would work out. And I think a lot of us were surprised that the Doug thing fell apart as quickly as it did. I think people internally at the Eagles are surprised things kind of snowballed as quickly as they did at the end. And it was a tough, bad year. But guys want to win. And you have no choice but to buy in. If you don't buy in, you're going to be gone in this league. So I think they have no choice. And, Nick has to bring it. I think, Nick's going to have to bring it. And during this time, getting to know his players. But the nucleus of this team, in a sense, is really a young team. And they appear to be building around Jalen Hurts here, barring a trade for a quarterback and Deshaun Watson or something. They're building around Jalen Hurts. It's a young team, and guys have no choice but to buy in here, in my opinion.
Just last year at Thanksgiving, if I told you that both Carson Wentz and Doug Peterson would be gone, you would have looked at me like, what the hell are you talking about? But sure enough, we're here 6 months later, and that's exactly where we're sitting. No
Bizarro world, right? It's bizarro. I mean, to tell me Carson, I remember I even asked players this, and whether it was on the record, off the record. Yeah, I mean, nobody saw any of this coming. Nobody, not a single soul.
Carson Wentz now in Indianapolis. New coach team, his old coach taking his back, saying that he didn't believe that Jalen Hurts got inside Carson Wentz's head. Okay, if Reich can believe that and Carson can talk himself into it, that's good. What kind of year do you think Carson Wentz is going to have in Indianapolis?
I think he's going to have a better year because I think he's going to have a chip on his shoulder. He's going to want to prove people wrong. Obviously, it's all contingent on being healthy, right? So I think Carson's going to have a good year. Do I think he's going to have 2017? No, but that Indianapolis team is better. I think there'll be less pressure on Carson in Indianapolis. Yes, they're bringing him in, and he's going to be expected to take this team to the playoffs and go deep into the playoffs with Frank Reich. But there's way less pressure in Indianapolis. I mean, I love Philadelphia. I'm from here, but this is a hard place to play. And you talk about it in any of the sports, there is so much pressure, and it takes a unique individual. And the Carson thing just kind of ran its course way too quickly with the injuries. And there's so many things that went on with Carson. Think about it. The injuries, Nick Foles comes in and wins you a Super Bowl. Are you kidding me? So if you're Carson, you're going, put yourself in Carson's shoes. You're supposed to be the franchise quarterback. You get hurt a bunch of times. People question you. You then get hurt again. You're having an MVP season. Nick Foles comes in, wins you a Super Bowl. The guy is a statue outside Lincoln Financial. I mean, and then all of a sudden they draft Jalen Hurts. It's human nature to get down about that. Now, it's a big boy league, and I think Frank Reich even admitted to that. So I don't know. I don't know what was really going on in Carson's head. I know he wasn't happy about the Jalen Hurts situation, but can you blame him? It was very early for that to happen. It's not like the Aaron Rodgers situation in Green Bay. It wasn't like the Brett Favre situation in Green Bay when they drafted Aaron Rodgers years ago. It's a different situation. Carson's in his prime.
Yeah, Jeff, I want to rewind for a second about Doug because I do want to talk to you about that. I mean, yeah, you go back to a cold winter's night in Minneapolis. We're all sitting there. I'm thinking, okay, lifetime dispensation card, first championship since 1960. Turned out to be 3 years. They move on from the head coach that finally gets them the Lombardi Trophy. When you look at Jeffrey, when you look at Howie, do they think they're responsible for this more than the head coach? Is that the disconnect you find?
Say that again. Do you think that they are more responsible?
Do they think they are more responsible for the Super Bowl championship than the head coach?
I think a lot of it was simple. It's complex, but it's simple. At the end of the day, from everything I have been told, from everyone I have talked to, is that they were disgusted the way last season went. 4 wins with that team. Yeah. We looked this time last year, we looked at that schedule and we went, okay, they have the easiest schedule on paper coming into play like they do now this upcoming season, but they have the easiest schedule. They're going to make another deep playoff run. It completely falls apart. If you remember what Jeffrey Lurie told Jim Schwartz after the Super Bowl, after they win in Minneapolis, he was upset that Tom Brady had a record-setting Super Bowl on that Eagles defense. Jeffrey is a perfectionist. He's never satisfied. They were disgusted last year in that 4-win season. They were expecting Doug to come into these meetings and have these innovative ideas. They did not want Press Taylor to be promoted. They did not want internal upgrades from on defense. They wanted Doug to go out and find these innovative coaches. And I don't want to say bringing in a Chip Kelly type as your offensive or defensive coordinator, but they wanted a little more pizzazz. They wanted a splash. And they were really uninspired and unimpressed with what Doug was bringing to the table as far as the coaching staff. And they did not think that Doug was going to budge. And I don't think Doug was happy with a lot of things going on internally and decisions. And there was a lot of bitterness over the draft situation last year and the Hurts and the Justin Jefferson situation. I mean, there was just a lot of tension building in that organization. So it's a competitive organization. There's a lot of different opinions. We saw it this year with Tom Donahoe and Howie Roseman. We saw a glimpse of it right there. While that's overblown, those things exist. But as things mount and tensions mount, I just think it got to be too much. And they said, we don't want to do this. And I think Jeffrey Lurie admitted, we don't think Doug deserved to get fired. We just felt at this course, this point of time, it was time to move on. And yes, it shocked me. I mean, I'm still surprised that we're sitting here talking about this.
Well, that's one of my favorite quotes, Jeff, is Doug doesn't deserve to be fired, but I'm going to fire him. I thought that was a hilarious press conference.
Well, but you know, if you put yourself in his shoes, yourself in his shoes, and let's say Jody, you're running the show here, and you're not really you don't like what John does or John's ideas.
That's true.
And let's say John's
basically on a day in day out basis. Thanks for noting that, Jeff.
Yeah, sorry. I think I touched on a sore subject.
No. We're joking.
But what are you going to do? So I don't think they wanted to. I just think they came to a point and said, we're going to make a tough business decision here. And, you know, and there was a lot of issues last year, and things really stemmed going back to the Mike Groh.
Mike Groh, yes.
They really stemmed from that. Doug did not want to fire Mike Groh. And Doug, I think, felt as if, hey, I wish I, stood up for him a little bit more, but he says he's coming back. All of a sudden he fires him. And I think that caused a lot of issues, and a lot of stemmed from that. And I just think tensions got high. And look, it's a big boy league, right? And these things happen. And I think Doug was, I think the fastest Super Bowl winning quarterback to be fired in like 3 decades.
Yep.
So I think we're all sitting here surprised, but no, I don't think Doug deserved to get fired, but I think he should have had another year, but.
I hear you.
Skaversky getting excited like Nick Sirianni knocking over mics. That's
knocking over my mic. Yeah. You guys want to do rock, paper, scissors?
We're good with you on that, Jeff. Here's a question I have for you, though. You talked about players adapting to Nick Sirianni and learning him and wanting to play for him and the like, and I agree with everything you said. But I got this team starting off 2-5, which is not great. 7 games in, just slight of the halfway mark. 2-5, that's not a lot of winning. As you pointed out, players like winning. Doesn't matter how they get there with the coach, enthusiasm, business-like. Just tell me we're winning. We'll be good with that. If they're 2-5, I don't think you could categorize that as winning. Do they have the veteran guys? Because Sirianni's going to do what he's going to do. New coaching staff, as young as it is, as John pointed out, great point. The veteran players on this team, can they be the glue that keeps it together to get to a 2-5 start? The back end of the schedule gets easier when they can make their run at 500 against their all divisional mediocre opponents and the Jets. Can they hang in there? Do the veteran guys have what it takes in the locker room to keep this team together if they get off to a slow start?
I think so. And they have good veterans. Lane Johnson, Jason Kelce, Fletcher Cox, Zach Ertz. Zach may not be here, but they have good veterans. They have solid workers. They have guys with great attitudes. Jason Kelce, how many quarterbacks has Jason Kelce taken under his wing and worked with? They have good veterans. But no, things could be really trying. And I remember talking to Zach Ertz and Brent Selleck years ago when things were just snowballing with Chip Kelly and at the end of Andy Reid. And we've been through these ups and downs and these highs and the lows so many times. What are guys supposed to do? There's only, until this year, 16 games. There's only X amount of teams. You got to get up for each game. This isn't like baseball. So you don't have 162 games. you have no choice but to buy in. And yeah, your attitude may shift where you go, okay, well, I'm not going to play for a Super Bowl this season. But I don't know if I agree with you with the 2-5. And I don't know if I agree with you with the back end of the schedule being easier. Yes, on paper, the front end of the schedule looks awful. It looks brutal. The back end, yes, looks easier. They don't have to travel, get on a plane, yada, yada, yada. But at the end of the day, they always split, in my opinion, they always split those NFC East games, and they're always going to win games they're not supposed to, and they're always going to lose games they're not supposed to. So do I think they're going to be a playoff team? No, but I think they will surprise more people than not. That's just my gut feeling looking at this schedule, but I could be wrong. I sat here last year and I went, hey, they're an easy playoff team. They're an 11-win team. No problem. And instead, they were an 11-loss team. So who knows? I don't know, but I think guys will be able to keep this thing together because it's a retooling. I don't want to say rebuild because I don't like rebuild, but it's a retooling situation here.
All right, Jeff, while we got you, I got to ask you about the quarterback. I got to ask you about the guy Jason Kelce's going to work with and sort of call out protections for, and that's Jalen Hurts. More so, how did we get here? You know better than – you've been around a long time now. You know better than anyone how this franchise values the quarterback position. So we look at the Carson Wentz divorce. Did that impact their thought process moving forward? Because, look, they're going to get Jalen Hurts 2021, but that's it. Can he seize this job? Is there any path for him to seize this job? Or are we going to be talking about Russell Wilson, Deshaun Watson, or the next flavor of the month in the draft next season?
Well, look, if they can get their hands on one of those other quarterbacks that you mentioned, I think they would do it. They have enough capital. They have enough draft picks. They have potential players that they could swing for that. I don't know. There's obviously a lot of baggage with Deshaun Watson right now. I don't know if I would go that direction, but you never know. I mean, they took a chance on Michael Vick years ago, and a lot of that had to do with, of course, Andy Reid and his belief in giving people second chances. I think Jalen Hurts it's Jalen Hurts' job at this point, right? I mean, who else is going to be the quarterback? So they're going to give Jalen Hurts every possible way of winning this job and being successful. They drafted his receiver at Alabama, a guy that he had a lot of success with, mostly in practice, but a guy that he has a good rapport with, a guy he has chemistry with. They drafted a center he's familiar with. They have guys around him. They have two young receivers. They have young running backs. They're trying to make this work with Jalen Hurts. Nobody has a crystal ball. Nobody knows how this is going to work out. And the Eagles can't tell you that, hey, they believe this is going to work out. They believe Jalen Hurts at this point gives you your best shot, flipping this thing around and getting going. But do we really know? None of us know. And in a blink of an eye, a guy can get hurt. In a blink of an eye, a guy can make this amazing play and get you into the playoffs. No one has a crystal ball, but I think Jalen Hurts can be competitive. And I think Jalen Hurts is going to have some, I don't want to say rookie because he's not going to be a rookie, but he's going to have those rookie moments. I think last year playing those final games is going to help him going into this season. But remember, he has a new coach, a new offensive coordinator, new players. How's it all going to gel? But I think now that he's going to be the guy and, doesn't have to worry about stepping on Carson's toes, I think he can be a little more authority. He can show a little more authority and he could take command better. That was a tough situation that he was brought into last year. So I think he's going to have more confidence to be able to lead this team. And I think he's going to speak up a little bit more. He's soft-spoken, but I think he's going to be able to take command of this team. And the Eagles are going to put him in the best possible position to be successful, in my opinion, from everything that I've seen.
Jeff, I'm going to ask you to look into your crystal ball here. Not to give me the final record. John and I just ran it down.
17-0.
17-0. Very good. John and I both ran it down. We both ended up at 8-9. I'm not going to ask you to do that. Instead, I want you to project this. Let's pick out a game. The November 21st game against the Saints. Saints are here. Their record will be what it's going to be. It's the week before Thanksgiving. We haven't gotten to the cold. It's still the fall. It's the kind of weekend you would think of as a great NFL weekend. What is the crowd going to be like at Lincoln Financial Field? We had the quasi attendance last year. We've got a new team coming off a 4-11 season with a new coach and changeover personnel and the like. What is Eagle Nation going to be like almost dead middle of the schedule at home against the Saints this week? What's going to feel for football going to be like here in Philadelphia at that time?
What's the score in the first quarter?
7-7.
Here's what I love about Philadelphia. They will boo. The Eagles were booed the first game back after winning the Super Bowl. The Phillies were booed on opening day after winning the World Series. The day they got their rings, the Phillies were booed at home in the opener. I mean, that's just Philadelphia. So what has transpired in that game? What transpired the week before? How's Jalen Hurts playing? Is Jalen Hurts playing? You know, how does Devontae Smith work out? Is Jalen Reagor working out? I mean, it's so hard to predict. I mean, here's the great thing. The Eagles fans are always into it, right? Philly fans are always into it. So there will be energy in there. Is it positive energy or negative energy? I don't know. I really don't know. What I love about this team is that there are really no expectations. So anything that is a plus is going to be a positive. You know, when there's too many expectations, there's only room for a letdown. I mean, the Eagles, nobody thought the Eagles, once Carson got hurt, they were going to win the Super Bowl, right? So that made it even more exciting. And then you outduel Tom Brady. That even made it more exciting. But when you go back to those Phillies teams that were supposed to, you know, win the World Series and then they don't, it's a big letdown. So I always look at it when the Eagles are not supposed to do well and they do well, it's even better because there's no expectations. You're expecting nothing. I don't know. It could be ugly, Jody. It could be really ugly, but it may just be one of these thrilling games that they're not supposed to win, that they do win. And then you start going, wow, we don't need Carson Wentz. We need this Jalen Hurts kid's unbelievable. I mean, who knows? I mean, how many games are before that? Is that like the 8th game, 9th game of the season?
Yeah, Chet, you're right. There's good energy. There's bad energy. That's all good. If you get apathy, that's the bad part. There's never apathy with Eagles fans.
Right, but they're not supposed to. But they're not supposed to be a good team this year. So
that's true.
The energy can only go up. Like the baseline of energy is going to be, in my opinion, is just going to be a little negative going in or pessimistic. It only can go up. People are going to be excited to see Jalen Hurts. They're going to be excited to see Devontae Smith. Obviously, question marks. No one's going to get excited about Landon Dickerson. You know, he's an offensive lineman, but you're going to be excited. Hey, can Jalen Reagor, he's not going to be Justin Jefferson, but can Jalen Reagor, you know, be worthy of that pick? How's Miles Sanders going to be? You know, so there's going to be a level of excitement, but you're talking about, you know, 8-9 games into the season.
Yeah. Well, forget about that. How optimistic are you to get some grass time at rookie camp? You're looking forward to it, getting out there.
Yeah. And you know, but I always go at these rookie camps. None of us know, like, we don't know what we're looking at. No. We don't know if, you know, we heard Devontae Smith is a great route runner, but we don't know in these warmups, is that a great route? And, you know, these guys, their heads, you know, I've talked to a couple of the rookies already. Their heads are spinning. I talked to Teron Jackson last week, the 6th-round pick from Coastal Carolina. His head's spinning. He just got the playbook earlier that day. He's going through it with you know, his defensive line coach, and his head's just spinning. So these guys trying to put it into action. They're going to be going a little bit slow, but the optimism with Nick Sirianni is great. And you got to love this time of year. We're seeing these fresh faces, seeing them learn, seeing them put it together. But I cannot wait till I see Jalen Hurts with Devontae Smith, Jalen Reagor, Miles Sanders, and really see the next generation of this Eagles offense, see how this blossoms here.
Jeff, great stuff. We appreciate your coming on. Do us a favor. Tell that Gardner guy that you work with, a couple other gray mustachioed guys, send their regards. We
Absolutely. Thanks for having me. I love your background.
We will certainly be asking you back to join us again. Johnny will see you down at rookie camp this week. Thanks for coming on with us today.
Thanks for having me, guys. I appreciate it.
That is Jeff Skversky of 6ABC here with us on Birds 365. All right, time to put a bow on the show. We'll come back. Mac and Mac guys going to wrap up a Thursday edition of Birds 365.
If you missed any of today's show on the Jacob Media channel, listen to the podcast on your way home. Available on YouTube, Apple, and Spotify.